back to another powerful episode of AIBiz, the podcast where we explore the strategies, mindsets, and systems that help us thrive, not just in business, but in life. So, today we are talking about something every entrepreneur thinks they have until the crack starts to show its systems. Yeah. And not just any systems, like profitable processes that pay for themselves. Yeah. And dear listeners, my guest today is Eric Bihorn. So welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation.
Amazing. And so Eric, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. So dear listeners, Eric is a business strategist, author, and the founder of Eric Bihorn Career and Business Solutions. So, over the last decade, he has helped small business owners turn the chaos into clarity, like building operational structures that actually support growth instead of becoming another thing to manage. Yeah. And what I love about his story is that he didn't just start with a huge team and a pile of money or a ready made blueprint, but he started with an idea, a strong work ethic, and the belief that he could build something meaningful for everyone. And along the way, he has learned the hard truths about launching two crickets, investing in the wrong ideas, and also waking up at 10 a.m., uh, wondering if the hustle was worth it. Yeah. And now he's here to share the turning point, like how putting real processes behind passion can be the difference between burning out and breaking through. And so, if you are a small business owners, dear listeners, or a solopreneur, or even a professional looking to get out of career confusion, then this is your episode. So, I'll not take much of your time. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you again. That was a great introduction. I'm gonna have to contract you out to do introductions when I speak. Man, that was great. That's better than I would do. Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I mean, yeah, definitely. Like as I mentioned also, so like it's a kind of passion to process. So uh, and you have said that putting real processes behind the passion and which changed everything for you. So from there, like I'd love to ask, like, what was a moment when you realized passion alone wasn't very enough?
Oh, great question. So, I've been in business for around 12 years, and the first 5 years were the hardest. And the reason why they were the hardest was because it was all about passion. It was all about one, I was happy to uh one discover what I was or one of the things that I was passionate about, which is like you said before, career management, business strategy and process improvements for small businesses. And with me going just I was a part of the whole hustle, work 24 hours a day, no sleep, no rest, and things of that nature. But then it got to a point where I noticed someone, and I'm still good friends with them today. Um, they started a business after me, but they were more successful than I was in a sense of them generating money, right? Because I don't look at success just for followers and how many people know you. Your bottom line, your
Yeah.
business is designed to, of course, serve people and help people with a problem, but it's also to generate some sort of income. So with me hustling, bustling, thinking that, this is great, she, sat me down and said, "Well, look at my numbers and look at your numbers. Was I able to, or how was she able to surpass me based off of revenue?" And she said, "I beat you based off of the fact of I had systems in place. With
Mhm.
my passion, I confuse myself a lot, right? Something that if I had the right systems in place at the time, something that could have taken me 30 minutes took me 3 hours because I really didn't sit down and really think about what are the necessary steps that I needed to accomplish. Well, excuse me, what are the necessary steps that I needed to do to accomplish this particular thing? And that was a game changer for me, um, to understand that in order to be truly successful, you have to have certain systems in place. And when I say systems for your audience, I'm really not trying to complicate it. Basically, a system is the steps that you need to accomplish something.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, the big conglomerates that make billions of dollars every year, like a
Mm,
McDonald's, like a Starbucks, like a Dunkin' Donuts, or any of these major food chains, they have systems. They have basic standard operating procedures. Even when it comes to a conglomerate like McDonald's, they have a step-by-step process on how you make the burgers, on how you put the fries in, when the ice cream machine is working, how long you hold the ice cream lever to pour it. It is a step-by-step thing. So regardless of who's in front of the register, who's behind the grill, the product comes out the exact same way, which is very, very critical whether you are in a service-based business or if you are a creator or even if you are a podcaster. You have to have a system in place to get a repeatable result. So knowing that the passion was already there, but I just needed to scale it back a little bit and be more strategic and put more systems in place for my business. And that's when it got to the point where my business took off.
mm,
Not only did it take off, I wasn't as tired as much. I didn't have burnout because I didn't look at the allure of, hey, I'm up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It's, hey, I've successfully completed this for a client in half of the time. They're happy, so I can move on to the next thing. So that was a game changer for me because the hustle, it's okay to hustle, but you got to hustle smart with the right systems in place so you could, you know, traject the results that you really want, not only in your business, but in your life as well.
exactly. And also, like, looking back, like, do you think that you could have avoided some of those setbacks, or were they kind of necessary lessons?
Um, I could have, but I don't think me avoiding them shaped me into the person that I am today. Okay. So a lot of my losses are lessons. I'll give you a prime example. So,
Okay.
on the career track side, I've written a couple of books, but my very first book, which is called How Professional Is Your Development, that was,
Mhm.
and still is, I should say, it's a self development guide for recent college graduates on how to have a successful career. People are amazed based off of the fact that when they ask me what inspired me to write the book, that whole book was based off of the mistakes that I've learned and mistakes that I had in my first 4 years after college. If I didn't endure those mistakes, the book may have never been written. But even more importantly, because I didn't write the book just for the sake of writing the book. I wrote the book so other college graduates and other professionals could learn from my mistakes in a sense, right? So,
That-
um, if I could have avoided some of those things, I may have not been able to get the true lesson from
mm,
those mistakes. The biggest thing is me not making the same mistake twice. That's the biggest thing, right? Because we have individuals, and no harm, no foul if this is, your listeners, because people are, we're humans. We're not robots, so we're prone to make mistakes. However, I don't think it's in anybody's best interest if they make the same mistake over and over and over again. That's the biggest thing because if you made the mistake and you've truly learned the lesson from it, what can you do to avoid that mistake again. And I'm even putting myself on the platform of saying I've been in situations where I've made the same mistake over and over and over again, and it was it was detrimental to my career because here's the thing, I knew better based off of the first time that I made the mistake. But me being a goofball at some situations, just being fully transparent, I made some of the same mistakes over and over and over again. And like a process, if I made these same mistakes over and over and over again, I'm going to get the same result. But the crazy thing about it was, in my mind, I made the
Mm,
same mistakes over and over and over again, but I was expecting a different result. And I can't remember whose slogan was this, but they said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. So the mistakes that I've made, I
mm,
wouldn't want to. If I look back, I don't want to avoid them because they shape me for who I am. But the mistakes
mm,
that I continue to make, those are the ones that I would love to just throw in the trash can because I knew better as a professional.
mm. I agree. Totally agree. Yep. Oh, I mean, it's really refreshing to hear that systems uh, are not about killing the creativity, but they are about protecting it from burnout. So that's awesome, I'd say. And like many small business owners resist that creating systems because they feel it like it will take too much time or money. So how do you help them get past that mindset?
Okay. So the one exercise that I do with any client is first and foremost, I learn what their goals are in their business, of course, right? Because of course everybody wants to make money, but outside of making money, what are your goals? But let's just use money as a foundation because people can relate with making money the most. So then what I do is I get a better understanding of what they do and how much they make per hour. Okay.
Mm,
For example, most people um, I work with their consultants, regardless, they're architect consultants, business consultants, or whatever the case may be. So knowing that they're consultants, then I asked them, how much do you charge an hour? So let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, they charge $100 an hour as a consultant. Okay.
mm,
So then what I do is look at the amount of hours that they spend in a day on their business. So let's just say if they spend 8 hours a day, give or take, entrepreneurship, you have some people that spend 12, 14, 20
mm,
hours or whatever. But if they spend 8 hours, if you do the math, 8 hours times $100, that's so technically they should be making $800 a day in their business. So once
mm,
that bookmark, once that a benchmark has been set, so $800 um a day. So then I look at their schedule, and based off of their schedule, I look for something called PPAs. PPAs, which stand for, excuse me, yeah, profit producing activities. Okay. And profit producing activities, just full disclosure. I didn't learn this isn't a concept that I created. I learned this from another entrepreneur. So I want to give credit where credit is due. However, a PPA is the specific things that you do in your business to help you generate that money. So for example, a PPA for a consultant wouldn't be actually scheduling the meeting or traveling to the meeting. It's actually the face-to-face or virtual interface where they are actually working with their client, aka billable hours. One of the things that we see with every client that we work with, the amount of time that they fully work, for example, that 8 hours, they are only spending maybe 2 to 3 hours based off of that PPA that we just talked about. So instead of the $800 that they think they should be making, they're only making $300 a day because they are spending 5 hours on stuff that is not producing any income in a sense, you know? And knowing that with the numbers, they don't lie. The next thing that they say is, okay, what can I do to get rid of, for example, the 5 hours that we're not producing any income? And this is where the processes will come into play, or using AI or using some sort of technology to, help save them time, because the time that they save not doing the non PPA activities, they can
Mhm.
apply that into the PPA activities. For example, we just worked with a client, and she's on the outside looking in, she's very successful, has tons of clients. She's busy all the time, but her numbers weren't adding up. Once again, the amount of time that she's spending on her business every day is not equivalent to all of the profit producing activities. But long story short, we discovered that she spends at least 20 hours a week just reading emails. You can give that to someone else, or nowadays you can utilize AI technology to read the emails, see which emails make sense, and things of that nature. So there's certain activities that you can remove in a business owner's day that's wasting a lot of time. Once we get them to that mindset, everything else becomes relatively easy, because then they're starting to see the time that they're wasting based off of the activities that not producing any money, right? So once you show them the money that they're losing, or we call it profit leaks in their business, it gets to the point where they're sold. Because once again, if you're thinking you should be making $800 a day in your business, but you're only actually making $300, that's a huge profit loss. And any business owner, regardless of a consultant, a baker, or whatever have you, they don't want to lose money in their business. But once you actually see the time that they are losing based off of the stuff that's really not relevant in their business, that's the first step in shifting their mindset. Because that's the same thing that, like I just told you before with my friend, that's the same thing that she showed me. She showed me I was losing money based off of the fact of me working on irrelevant things, as opposed to focusing on the one to three things that I need to continuously do in my business to generate money. So once again, based off of the mistakes that I made, this is the stuff that we
Mhm.
uh, uh, employ in our clients. So definitely grateful. And once again, that's the reason why a lot of the mistakes that I made, I'm grateful for them, because somehow, some way, they come back in a way where I could help serve someone to not to do the same thing in their business. So
True. Exactly. Wow. And I mean, I think you just gave lot of the listeners their first action step, like something small enough to start, but big enough to matter, right? So um, that's a great point, I would say. And uh, also, like, you work with both these small business owners, professionals in transition. So, have you ever built a system that looked great on paper, but somehow failed because it didn't fit the people behind it?
yeah, oh yes. So um, one client, I created three systems: a onboarding system, meaning when they hire someone, these are the steps that they need to take, and
Mhm.
two offboarding systems. So, um, on paper, this onboarding system looked great. It looked wonderful. Um, it even got to the point, full disclosure, that once it was deployed within the organization, when people first started using it, it was great. However, it got to a point where they just stopped using it, and they started to just continue to do their own thing. And no harm, no foul, right? But at the same time, the challenge was not creating it. it was making sure that
Mhm.
the users of it used it every single time consistently. And that was the I won't even say it was a failure, but that was the thing where it didn't work. I mean, having any type of process or system on paper is
Mhm.
it's one thing, but you get to the point where when it's actually in play, that's a whole nother ball game. So, um, yeah, um, and this procedure, it was altogether, it was a pretty lengthy procedure because we wanted to make sure that it served the organization because they initially told us the gaps and the challenges when it came to being onboarded. And one of the things that they wanted to stop was what we call in America a revolving door, meaning, people, as soon as people are hired, maybe a couple of months later, they quit. And a lot of times in their exit interview, they quit based off of the fact of they really wasn't
Mhm.
properly onboarded. So knowing that this was a problem, knowing that this was a viable solution that worked, because this is the same system that I put in place for another organization who consistently use it. So it was proven that it worked, but this organization didn't use it and they're still
Mhm.
in the manner of not properly onboarding people, and they're still losing people. So look great on paper. It was what we call battle tested, meaning it worked in the organization, but there was some people that didn't want to continue to use it because they just wanted to continue to do their own thing in a sense. So that does happen from time to time, but um, you just have to look at it from the perspective of
Mhm.
one, that they really want this to happen, because also when it comes to processes, you have to make sure that you have the right process or the right system for the right culture in the organization, right?
Mhm.
Because we also created systems that was very resistant to some
Mhm.
people in the organization, and it would have never worked. It could have been the perfect procedure, the perfect system, but if the people didn't want to use it, it would have always been a failure. So I've seen both sides of it where it worked to a T. In other instances, it did not work, but it wasn't based off of what was created. It was based off of the people that did not want to continue to use it, which is fine. I mean, I got paid anyway, so it is what it is. What?
Exactly. Mm. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. And um, lovely. And I mean, I have to say that it's such a important point. Like systems are not just mechanical, but they have to be human friendly. I mean, if we expect them to last, so uh, definitely true. And from here, like as a business grows, the complexity grows as well. So, what do you say? Like, how can owners avoid drowning in their own success?
Mm. Um, well, one of the things that I've done to
Mhm.
not drown in my success is um I keep a I keep be personally, I keep a level head and knowing that all of this can be taken away in an instance. That's the first thing, right? Because being a business owner, it's
Yeah.
it's part knowledge, but at the same time, it's also part personality. And
Yeah.
going for the fact of and also knowing what your why is. Why did you
Mhm.
want to start the business in the first place, right? That may change throughout the course of your career as the business owner, but you also have to look at it from the perspective, if especially if you are a single person business owner, and then you get to the point where you start to hire people, which is a that transition a lot of people overlook, right? Because if you've been doing something a certain way in your business for so long, and then all of a sudden you're bringing in someone new that one does not understand your system. They have some skill sets, but they don't really understand how to operate in the business. And you don't have processes and procedures in place, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them based off of the fact of the misrepresentation of how a business owner works with other people, because most people, they say they want to scale, they want to grow their business, but do you have the proper procedures and systems in place that you can hand off to that person so they can do what you used to do, not the same, but even better? So, and also, you want to have these systems. It's not all about you as the single business owner. You also want to know that you're responsible for other people, and that's another caveat. When you are responsible for someone else's life and someone else's livelihood, you have to, you know, you have to have an understanding that it's not just about you. And of course, you want to be successful for yourself, but you have people that are dependent on you to be successful in the business, because this is the paycheck that they take home every 2 weeks or every month or whatever have you. So for me, knowing that, anyone that I would work with in my business, I look at it from that perspective, because I don't want to disappoint myself in my business, but I don't want to disappoint the people that are taking their precious time and their precious energy and working with me on the success of the company. Because you also have to have a mentality of being a servant leader and servant leadership, where most entrepreneurs, and not knocking anybody that's listening to this, but maybe this perspective that I'm about to show you, it can help you out. Most people think that the business owner is at the top of a pyramid, in a sense, right? They're at the top, or the top of an organizational chart. When it comes to servant leadership, the leader is at the bottom. And with the leader being at the bottom, they are lifting and building up their employees so they can be their very best. Because if they are at their very best, then ultimately you as the business owner are going to be at your best also. So having that type of servant leader uh, mentality, it's a game changer. You've also seen a lot of leaders now that will not employ that mindset in their business, and they fail, right? Because it's not about, once you start to bring people in, it's not about you anymore. It's about your people. It's about your people, and your people will make you or break you in your business, regardless of what it is. That's why, you know, people need to master the servant leadership perspective, especially if they're drowning in their business, or they don't want to drown, because being open-minded and listening to the people that are around them will keep the person humble, or it keeps the leader humble. And it also helps the leader think of other ideas that they have never thought of. But having the right people around them, and telling right people around them that tells them the truth all the time, it sets, the leader or the business owner up for success. But people definitely need to employ servant leadership concept, because it's once you bring people into your organization, it's not about you anymore. It's not about you, it's about us as a whole. And we can move a lot further as a unit in an organization, as opposed to doing it by myself, especially based off of my experience and mistakes that I've made in the past. See, the mistakes lead to great things.
Exactly. Very, very true. Yeah. Lovely. I really love that. Eric, I mean, you have given us more than just the business advice today. I mean, lovely. I mean, they're not just about efficiency, but they're about building a business that supports your life instead of consuming it. So um amazing, amazing. And for the listeners, like, please take a moment to think about, like, where in your business you are relying on memory, luck, or the last minute hustle to get things done. That's your signal, because that's where a process can free you, make you money, and give you back your peace of mind. So that's a very important point. And Eric, thank you so much for showing us that structure doesn't have to mean the um, rigidity, I would say, and that a good system doesn't just run your business; it runs your business better. So that's amazing. And so, if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best medium to connect?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I want to say once again, thank you for allowing me to be on this great podcast. Thank you again for putting forth your best effort to serve your audience in the highest manner with your content. And for me, the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. What someone can do, go on LinkedIn and just type in Eric B. Horn. You definitely got to add the B, because if you just have Eric Horn, someone that has the same name but does not look like me will pop up. So feel free to connect with me. I love to connect with people and learn more about how they are, you know, moving
Yeah.
forward in their career. But once again, thank your audience. Thank you for everything you do. And thank you for even just, allowing me to share my story and some of my knowledge on your
Mm,
podcast. Definitely grateful.
amazing, definitely. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for a easy reference so that you can easily reach out to Eric. And also, until next time, friends, remember that your passion deserves a plan and your dream deserves a structure. And obviously, the systems you build today can be the freedom that you live tomorrow. So, with this hope, until next time, be happy and stay mindful. So, thank you so much.